After a resounding win, are they eyeing a win-now move? Charania will stop by to discuss. The NHL season is nearing the halfway point. Which teams are making a push to be on top? We'll ask Pete Blackburn about pucks and darts. Dalvin Cook got cut by the Jets, but his PR team says it's all sunshine and rainbows. Which other stories are in need of some PR spin? We'll discuss that and more next on The Rally. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to The Rally. We got the whole crew back in the studio. We got Russell Dorsey, Joshua Perry. I'm Brooke Fletcher. Charania is going to join us in a bit to talk some NBA news. We also got Pete Blackburn hanging out with us later on the show. We got a great one coming. How are you feeling, Joshua?
You know, I'm feeling all right. I just had to ask a question. Is it a little bit chilly for the arms to be out, Brooke?
Yes, it is, and I'm highly regretting my decision. I have a big old parka over here in the corner, so don't be alarmed if you come back out of commercial break and I have a big parka on. You dressed for the occasion. You got a nice turtleneck.
I got layers.
You got 2 layers.
Yeah.
You just got a nice little Henley on, but it looks good.
Yeah. The turtleneck with the quarter zip is a decision.
Yeah, it is.
What went into, because it's like, it seems like you'd be warm.
So I did this last week, and I really liked it. I had a blue turtleneck with a light blue quarter zip on, and so I'm getting dressed this morning, and I asked my wife, so what do you think about the quarter zip turtleneck combination? And she's like, it looks really good. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like it's classy. And so this is what I'm doing now. I'm making it a thing.
Maddie's got really good style.
I don't hate it.
So she knows.
Concerned you to be warm.
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah. You know who else has really good style? Our guy, Charania. So let's not keep him waiting any longer. Let's get to today's big trends because we got to talk some NBA news. Oklahoma continued their hot streak Tuesday night with a win over the top team in the league, and that's the Celtics. OKC has now won 8 of their last 9 games, putting them second in the Western Conference at 23-9. So like I said, Charania, he joins us now for more on this. Shams, what are you seeing from this team and just their success as of late?
They're legit. I mean, when you think about their starting 5, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. This is a young, homegrown 5 that they have to start games. And then coming off the bench, you have Kenrich Williams, the other Jalen Williams. You have Isaiah Joe, who they found last year after he got waived by the Sixers. They're 8 players deep on any given night. They have players that they also have 9, 10, 11 that they can trust upon. And from an asset perspective, Brooke, no one has what the Thunder has. When you talk about they can trade up to 11 first-round picks, they can trade up to 20-plus second-round picks. They have several swaps they can trade over the next decade as well. When you talk to teams, though, there's no urgency with the Thunder. They want to see what they have. They're focused on their current group because when you look at their top 7 or 8 players, they're all young and they're all guys that are waiting for their playoff opportunity, their playoff moment. So until you see them go through a playoff series, you don't really know what you need or what you have. Could this team make a run like the old Thunder teams did back with Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, where after a couple of playoff runs, they're making it to the NBA Finals, not based on making trades elsewhere. They're doing it all internally. And this Thunder team already a top 2, top 3 seed. They have a chance to do some damage already this season.
They're part of the NBA's league, right? I think it's easy to say that. They're led by what could be the NBA MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're getting a lot of growth from Chet Holmgren in a very short amount of time, well on his way to Rookie of the Year. They're well coached. They're a well-coached basketball team. Mark Dagnall has the team prepared to play each and every night, and we've talked about it on the show with our friend Paris Lawson about them being prepared for games and that coming straight from their head coach. I think as far as the assets go, you feel like they're getting ready to make that big splashy move.
About that time.
And you don't want them to be like the Boston Celtics were under Danny Ainge, where they had all that draft capital and then never really used it to go and add.
Yeah, and I think about OKC as well. You mentioned the capital that they have and the move that they can make. I think they need to do it because they are in a window right now, and for all the reasons that you mentioned. But they also got some players that would be interesting, too, if they decide that they want to move some things around package-wise. They played 11 dudes in that game. We're talking about an NBA game, and I know that thing got away from Boston, but the idea that they feel confident, like they can empty their bench and get guys minutes, and it's something that they have done, feels like they have some freedom to pick and choose and say, okay, these are the guys that we like. This guy's shown something. Maybe it's not for us. And all of a sudden, we're talking about a little bit of a different roster as they hit the stretch run.
And you talk about, my bad, Brooke. I was going to say, you talk about that. There's a lot of teams already going 7-8 men deep on their bench. Like, they're not really going to those extra guys at the end of that bench.
Yeah, and they have the second youngest roster out of the entire NBA here. Kristaps Porzingis, you know, he is one of the biggest stars there in the league, and he gave them a lot of credit. He was like, listen, this wasn't a fluke game. This is a team that is the real deal. A lot of big stars on this team here, and he's like, this is going to be a threat this season. So not only did they beat the Celtics, Shams, but they also took down the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the best team in the West here. You kind of touched on it that they can do some damage, but I mean, how much damage can this team really do down the stretch?
With home court advantage, you would think getting out of the first round is going to be a major goal for this team. You know, I do think, listen, they have the assets. They can go get a big name player. It's just tough without having seen them go through a full playoff run together as far as knowing exactly what you need. And when you think about their starting five, you know, who's the odd man out of that? Is it Josh Giddey? Is it Lou Dort? You need Lou Dort for his defense. Do you need Josh Giddey? Like, I think there's still some questions that only going through some trials and tribulations come playoff time, seeing what this team has in the postseason can really show you. But there's no doubt when and where and who it is, which star player they target. And Sam Presti, this organization clearly has done a good job identifying talent. When they figure out exactly who they want to go get, they have a chance for sure. They can be in the race for any superstar in the league.
All right, we'll see if they can continue their hot streak. Let's keep it out west, though, because the Warriors, they have ran into some issues, especially on the injury front. They did get the win over Orlando last night. But, Shams, what can you tell us there?
Gary Payton II, this is just brutal news for him. I'm told he's going to miss several weeks with a left hamstring strain. This comes after he just played 2 games since returning from a month-long absence with a tear in his calf. So you have a torn calf already this year for Gary Payton II, and now a hamstring strain that will sideline him for several weeks. He's only played 18 games. When he's healthy, he's a key cog for the Warriors. They need him in the lineup. Defensively, Steve Kerr trusts him a lot. But now you're down Draymond Green already with a suspension. He's going to be out, I'm told, at least through the next week. You're down Gary Payton II. I would expect Moses Moody. He could get a rise in minutes. Andrew Wiggins, they're going to rely on him more off the bench. But just a tough stretch for the Warriors, losing Gary Payton II for the second time in about a month and a half.
Well, Shams, one player that you didn't mention there on the Warriors, that's Klay Thompson, who has been going through some struggles of his own this season. But he recently shared with us some advice that he got from head coach Steve Kerr. And take a listen here.
We had a conversation about just enjoying this last chapter of my career and how lucky I truly am to still be playing this game and doing it at a high level and being a better mentor for these young guys, leading by example, and having my energy right every game. And he helped me realize when I do have negative energy, how that affects the team in a poor manner. So we had a great conversation. That just helped me change my whole mindset and forget about shooting splits or points per game or all-star games, and just to enjoy being in this Warriors uniform.
Now, Shams, Thompson's in the final season of his 5-year deal there. There's been a lot of speculation on if the Warriors are going to extend him. So in your opinion, what do you think his future is there with the Warriors?
It's up in the air for the simple fact of he's in the final year of his deal. He was offered an extension, 2 years, $48 million. It was not taken. And both sides essentially decided that we're going to see how the year plays out, see how the year goes. Could the season go on and that offer come back around and Klay Thompson take it? For sure. But if you're Klay Thompson, clearly you're betting on yourself. And I'm sure based on his words, he expected more production individually going into the year. It has been an up and down year for Klay Thompson. When you think about overall the last 10 games, he's played well. They won 6 of 10. He's shot the ball well from the field, but they are 1 of 3 in their last 4. He's struggled as well. He's been benched over the last few games once. So this is not what we're known to see from Klay Thompson. He's been benched twice in the last month and a half. He's gone through up and down struggles all year. We know he can get hot at any moment, but clearly maybe it's weighed on him as far as his stats, as far as the extension. Where does his future hold? He wants to be in the Bay Area. So where will he play moving forward? I'm sure that's all weighed on him.
I think it takes a lot of honesty to be as vulnerable as Klay Thompson was in that moment. And I respect so much because we hear it from guys all the time that Nah, I know my contract's up, and I know they're having negotiations, but not paying attention. I'm just focusing on what's going on the floor. And it seems disingenuous because hey, you're talking about your livelihood. You're talking about where you and your family is going to be living. You had a lot of success with a team, so you feel like it's family, and all of a sudden you're not playing well. And it feels like things are starting to, split with you as a team and you as a player. And I know that is probably tough. And for him to be able to have that conversation with Steve Kerr, who has been with him his entire career, and say, hey, man, like, you are not yourself right now. And when you're not yourself, and when people feel that energy, it permeates through the rest of the team. And I respect Steve Kerr for saying that to somebody he probably very much loves as both a player and a person. But I respect Klay for hearing that and taking that in and saying, yeah, he's right.
Not getting defensive.
Yeah, I think there's also an angle, too, here. And Shams mentioned the business behind it, where Klay was offered an extension, and he said, no, I'm going to see how this goes, head out into free agency. And so as an organization, they wanted to have a plan for what that may look like. And you're talking about a guy that's 69th in scoring right now, 86th in three-point percentage. His value is not necessarily what he's doing on the court right now. His value as a veteran player is, I am a champion and I am a gold medalist. And if he is going to maybe evolve, he called this final chapter of his career. If his career is going to evolve and maybe now he's a guy who has to be more of a mentor, well, you need to start acting like one so you can prove to us that we should bring you back in some sort of capacity where maybe you're not the old Klay Thompson, but we're going to be good with that. And with the negative energy, that can't happen. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on here. I agree about being vulnerable because it's a tough spot, but he might also be having a realization after some injuries and the fact that he's getting a little bit older that his role could be changing too, and he has to embrace the new Klay in order to be a guy who can be around for a lot longer.
And people underestimate the mental toughness you have to have in this game. And you see a lot of athletes, not just Klay Thompson, but a lot of great athletes across all sports where their contract year or the year even after they sign their deal are some of their worst years because they have that weighing on their shoulders that they're like, I got to live up to these expectations. For him, he's like, I'm Klay Thompson. I'm one of the best shooters in the league here, and look at what I'm doing. So it's nice to have somebody looking out for you. Steve Kerr, we know how great of a guy he is, and he pulled him aside. And he even said, listen, the problem early on in the season was his shot selection. Now it's not that. He's gotten a lot better. It's just that he's not having that luck, right? The shots are just not falling. They eventually will. So, Shams, that's always great stuff. But we got to switch because we know that Klay Thompson, he's very familiar with All-Star voting, right? And the first round of NBA All-Star voting results comes out tomorrow. So here are some of the stars, players in contention to start their first All-Star game. So surprising to see that Devin Booker actually has never started a game. That surprised me. I don't know about you guys here. So Shams, want to show you our ballot here for the Western Conference. Take a look. This was a really tough decision. We had SGA, Kevin Durant right here. Of course, we can't leave off your guy, LeBron James, Joshua. So it was a tough call choosing between SGA, Anthony Edwards, and Luka Doncic in the backcourt. So do you agree with our decision here, Shams?
I mean, those all look great. I mean, I have no disagreements with that list. I think, Luka Doncic, you could certainly make the case of him over Anthony Edwards if there is one to make, but Anthony Edwards has that team, one of the top seeds in the Western Conference. So either way you go, I don't think you can hold it against you guys at all. I mean, Anthony Edwards definitely deserves to be there.
I think that was a part of the discussion that we were having, and Russ was pounding the table. Obviously, SGA should go in there. We talked about OKC and what they are, but Anthony Edwards, I feel like a lot of people are looking first off at a personality, and I think that matters. But second off, a dude who's the best player on a team who's currently #1 seed in the West, like I think that's going to matter to a lot of people. And it's not to say that Luka hasn't been balling this year, because I was pounding the table for him at one point too. That's going to be a tough decision to make.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you make the point, if there was the tiebreaker between Anthony Edwards and Luka, it's the fact that, all right, whose team is playing better? It's the Timberwolves. It's been the Timberwolves all season long, and the best player on that team is going to get the nod.
It was funny. We were like, should we just do any, mini, miny? Honestly. How should we do this? Like, should we draw straws? We didn't know, but this was a good list. And the first round, the results of voting comes out on Thursday, so we'll see what the fans at home, they wanted to see. All right, Shams, we appreciate you taking the time. When we come back, we got a great one coming your way. We're going to talk some NFL here because the Ravens, they have the AFC all wrapped up. Should the rest of their stars in their final game against the Steelers? Well, we'll debate that.
Welcome back to the rally. Joshua Brooke, Russ here with you. Guys, it's time to talk a little pucks. And so I don't know a person more equipped to handle that than our guy, our NHL insider, and one of the hosts of the hit hockey podcast, What Chaos, Pete Blackburn. Pete, what's going on, man?
Not too much. Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
Happy New Year to you as well. Well, when it's the new year, that means the Winter Classic is going to be played. Now, you've had a lot of thoughts about the Winter Classic over the years. What did you think of this year's Winter Classic and the Seattle Kraken, who are playing very well right now?
Yeah, I thought the scenery was great. I thought it was cool that they introduced two new teams, the two newest teams in the NHL, and allowed them to kind of get the spotlight rather than the same old teams that you've always seen. I mean, the Bruins have got it a million times. I'm a Boston guy, so I'm not that upset about that. But like the Chicago Blackhawks, the Bruins, they're always in there. So the fact they got the two newest teams, I was pretty excited about it. I thought the atmosphere delivered. The game wasn't the best, but the game's really never the best. And it's not about the game, it's about the spectacle, and I think that delivered.
Oh, I really wanted to say the Kraken sweaters for that game, sick.
Oh, can we talk about the
tier.
fish? Them throwing, the guys are holding the fish right here, and they were actually throwing fish over their heads.
Like at Pike's Place.
Yeah.
So they do
I
it.
mean, I'd be worried. What if it slips out of your hands, just drills you in the face?
I mean,
They're
they're
pros.
hockey players. They're tough. You get hit
I'll
the
be
face with a
honest,
fish,
I was
you're
rooting
good.
for it.
It
I was
would have
rooting
made good
for a
TV,
fish.
wouldn't it?
I was rooting for a rogue fish, I won't lie.
Chaos. That's what Pete wants.
What
That's what
You
chaos.
don't want me throwing the fish, that's for sure. I would definitely drill somebody in the head with it. All right, let's talk about Vancouver, though. They have the best goal differential in the NHL, and they also have the second most points in the entire league. So are we talking Stanley Cup contenders here, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think that the Western Conference is pretty much wide open. I think the entire league is kind of wide open this year. It's up for the taking, and I think everybody was waiting for the drop-off from the Vancouver Canucks. They got off to an incredible start, and there were all those people who were, deep into the analytics saying, the drop-off is coming, the drop-off is coming, the drop-off is coming. And it hasn't really caught up to them yet. There has been some regression, but this team still ranks inside the top 5 in most categories. Their penalty killing could use some work. But when I look at the pillars for this team, like they have some really strong players who are playing their best hockey up front, and guys like Elias Pettersson, JT Miller. And then they have Quinn Hughes on the back end, who has been one of the best defensemen in the world all season long. And then I think most importantly, they're getting the goaltending, they're getting the saves. Thatcher Demko has been awesome for them this year. So this is absolutely a team that I think can be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, and I'm not necessarily waiting for the drop-off anymore.
All right, let's talk about World Juniors here. Team Canada, they got bounced. Do you enjoy seeing them suffer?
Of course, yes. I'm an American hockey fan. If you don't think that I revel in every time Canada fails, it's the best
Louise.
moment. It's even better than America winning is watching Canada fall off and lose and be embarrassed on the world stage. It's amazing.
Well, so here's the one thing. We already saw the fans from Toronto get on Pete.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be the whole country is on him now.
Yeah. You know what? I'm here for it, though. Like, enjoying watching somebody you can't stand lose more than your own team winning is a level of petty that I can appreciate.
That's hate.
It is.
That is hate.
Exactly.
That is the true definition of hate.
Early exit for Canada, and U.S. looks great, so it's shaping up to be a great year for American hockey fans in the World Juniors.
Definitely best of both worlds.
Yeah, let's talk about another early exit, though. Unfortunately for your Texas Longhorns, they lost in the CFP semifinal to Washington. So as you look back at this season for Texas, how do you feel about this team?
I mean, overall, yeah, it was a great year. Did I expect them to get into the college football playoff at the beginning of the year? I thought they might end up there, but probably best case scenario. So it's hard for me to be upset, but seeing how close they were and the fact that they still had an opportunity at the end by an absolute miracle. I don't know how long it's going to take me to forgive Sark for that first down play call on that last drive, throwing that little screen pass to the outside. I have no idea why you don't take 4 shots at the end zone. Quinn Ewers didn't play his best game. So, I mean, the fact that they barely touched the ball in the third quarter and still had a shot there at the end is encouraging. And it's making me look forward to next year, whether it's Arch, whether it's Quinn again. I think they got another good shot. The future is bright. Texas is emphatically back.
All right, Pete, the World Darts Championship has taken the world by storm, especially in the social media streets. Now, you're looking at Luke Littler, 16 years old, even though he looks 30. Pete, what have you learned about Luke Littler in this last couple of days?
I think he's a fraud. I mean, look at that face. And look at my face. And tell me that guy is 16 years old. I am literally twice that guy's age. Allegedly. I don't believe it. I know a bunch of people have been saying 16 years in England or the UK or wherever he's from is a harder 16 years than Americans, and that we're soft or whatever. But like, you tell me, who is the 16-year-old on screen right now? And it's not that guy. I'll tell you that much.
It's 100%
absolute fraud.
We could flip.
I need to see a birth certificate. I need to see blood work. I need to see ancestry.com.
Drinking age, I think.
Give me all of the things to prove that guy is 16 years old, because I don't buy it.
What is the drinking age over in Europe?
It ain't 16.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
It was 18, but
The part
still probably
for me
drinking.
is not the full beard either. It is the full-on receding hairline with the swoop
The
over
comb over,
to
this
make
little
it look like it comes down
swoop
lower.
joint is
Not doing
crazy.
himself any favors whatsoever.
No.
That man has a
He has
wife
no
and 4
time to
children.
focus on his looks. He's got to focus on darts.
Yeah, he's about to retire.
No, he is. You better hope that whatever the European retirement funds are doing well right now. But that's our guy, Pete Blackburn, always giving us the best knowledge over here on the Rally. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, the Ravens, they are locked into the 1 seed. So should they rest their guys this weekend or get some reps? All right, well, we're going to debate that coming up next.
Welcome back to the Rally. We'll say it louder. The new graphics. I'm kind of learning, because usually it comes right to
I get it, dude. I'm learning too.
Perry, Russell Dorsey. JP, the Ravens have been rolling all year long, and they have earned themselves an opportunity, if they wanted to rest their starters in the final week of the season. Now, it brings up the age-old debate that we've talked about multiple times on our show, rest versus rust. If you are John Harbaugh from the Ravens, what do you do this weekend?
Well, this is honestly what I would do, because I've been thinking about this all day, and it's a very interesting one. I would go through and ask the guys kind of one by one, how strongly do you feel about playing in this football game? Because when I was a player, I would have felt pretty strongly. I was very routine oriented. I felt like I needed to feel the game as often as possible. The time off always made me a little bit rusty, a little bit sluggish. Now you're looking at a potentially long layoff because you got that 1 seed and you're going to rest your starters in this game. And I would feel a little bit unsettled by that disruption into my routine. I think there are probably other guys sitting back there that are like, Coach, I have limped to this point to the end of the year, and I need this time to really get myself together. Like the Sunday off would benefit me a ton. And Coach, I'll be completely locked in the game. If you want to get me one of those headsets so I can hear the conversations that are going on, I can hear all the calls that are being made, I'd love to be a part of that. If, Lamar Jackson's one of those guys who feels like he needs to rest, I'd be like, hell, Coach, if you want me to call plays in the second half just so you know I'm fully engaged, I'd be willing to do that. I think it's a really difficult one to balance because some guys are perfectly fine saying, Coach, sit me out of this game because I need to get my legs back, while other guys, much like myself, I'd be like, I need to get some reps. I need to be a part of that game in some way, shape, or form out on the field.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think those are all really good points. If it's me, tell me if you like this. I'd say, all right, we're going to play a half. Half football with the starters out there. We'll see where the game is and make a decision at halftime. But if you're on the injury report and you're questionable or worse, you ain't playing this week.
That's fair. So here's my question for you, though, is if you get it to halftime and the game is close, what do you do?
Probably still sitting the starters.
Okay. Now, if you get it to halftime and they're getting blown out,
your starters?
by some whatever. It's not supposed to happen. But let's say, they're down by a couple scores at half. Your starters are. What do you do in that situation? Because to me, the thing that I would worry about if my plan was play them for a half is, let's say they go out there and they don't look great for a half. And that's going to be their lasting impression of the way that they played in their final game of the season before they get the bye. I would be a little bit troubled by that from a psychology standpoint.
Here's the thing. You're the best team in the AFC. Yeah. And I get what you're saying, but I have a hard time believing that the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though they got an outside shot at making the playoffs, is going to be in a position where they would blow anybody out.
Right, but these are the questions that coaches are going to be asking themselves all week long. And I think that's part of the calculus here. I think there is a physical side of this on the reps versus the wear and tear versus the rest versus the rust. I think there's also a mental aspect of it. Like I said, mine was mostly mental where I felt like I needed to be out there. For some dudes, if they go out there and it's like, oh man, I had a terrible game, they're going to be feeling away when they can't go out next week and play.
If TJ Watt starts hitting Lamar, hey, you're out, big dog.
The first time,
Snoop, get in here.
The first time TJ Watt gets a bead of sweat on Lamar, I'm like,
all right, big dog,
hey,
come on.
Yeah, come on over
Snoop,
here.
get in there.
Yeah. Big Snoop, Pro Bowler, as a matter of fact.
Buddy.
All right, let's switch it over and we'll talk a little bit here about Kyler Murray because Cardinals they got plenty of pride to play for on Sunday, and Kyler Murray's expected to make his 8th start of the season. Do you think he's the long-term guy? I mean, Gannon said that Kyler's won him over. Do you think that you roll with him at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
I do, because I think this year especially, we've learned that there are a lot of quarterbacks out there that got a lot of flaws. And I think you have a guy in Kyler Murray that, while he is not perfect, when he is healthy and has weapons around him, you can not only win with him, he could perform at a very high level. Think when he had, receivers around him, when he had a running game, when they first brought James Conner there, that offense was top 10 in the NFL. Let's say they draft Marvin Harrison Jr.
Sure.
Let's say they draft Brock Bowers. Let's say they draft a Rome Odunze.
Sure.
Now you're feeling really good with Kyler Murray as your quarterback and not worrying about having to develop a guy again, which is a position they've been in before. I think Kyler is your guy, and I think you have to continue to build around him, because I think one of the things we fall into watching the NFL is just because the dude's a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, that's it. That's all you need. Right. No, you have to put talent around people.
So I'm with you for all of the reasons that you said. I'm also with you because they paid this dude a lot of money. I feel like this is a part of the conversation that has kind of gone to the wayside a little bit because of the injury and everything else, but they're on the hook for a lot of money, and he's shown some promise early on. He's shown some promise since the return. And so I think you owe yourselves as an organization the right to evaluate him at least for one more year, even with those upgraded weapons that you talked about, potentially drafting one of those guys near the top of the draft. And if he cannot perform with that, now you start thinking about what the replacement's going to be, and you put yourself in a good spot because you already got the wide receiver, the tight end, or whoever the year before. And now when you bring the quarterback in, they're stepping into a situation where you can evaluate the young dude with some weapons around him.
Yeah, and we're not talking about Daniel Jones money where you can say, maybe we could eat this, right? It's not Russell Wilson where it's like, all right, if we cut him before the March 1st, we can. I know it's going to be a big dead money hit this year, but next year it's fine, right? Like, you're talking about serious top 10 quarterback money.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a really interesting heel turn we've had here, and I think the endorsement from the head coach, too. It sounded like a guy who wasn't fully bought in.
He wasn't on board at first.
At first, but now I think behind the scenes, too, Kyler's probably proven a lot to him.
For sure.
And I think that really matters.
I think he heard the narrative out there about him.
He did, and congratulations to him for responding to it, because a lot of guys would have just went and played that video game. They said he was playing too much. All right, we're going to take a break right here on the Rally, and we're going to talk a little Pro Bowl after this because announcements are imminent, and we're wondering who's headed to Orlando. So we'll make our picks on the other side of this break.
Welcome back to the Rally. The NFL Pro Bowl selection is tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. So let's go through some NFC quarterbacks that could potentially make it. But the catch here is you only can pick 3, JP. Only 3.
All right.
So make your way over to the board. What you got?
Let's have the conversation here. Okay, so we're going to start with our guy, Dakota Prescott, the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, he's played exceptional this year. He is a guy who we were extremely critical of, specifically for his turnovers, the fact that we felt like, he couldn't lead his team the way that he's needed to. Only 8 interceptions this year, 4,200 plus passing yards. This guy is playing really good ball. I think he's affecting winning a ton for his football team. I think that he's going to get the nod as a Pro Bowl quarterback. Now let's get to Brock Purdy, another guy who there's been a lot of conversation about what we think his ceiling is, and is he supremely talented, generational talent, whatever the case is. Let me tell you what he is. He's a dude who's going out there and winning games. He is a dude who's doing a phenomenal job distributing the ball to his weapons, and he's a guy who's been making some really good throws as well. So for Brock Purdy and where the San Francisco team is, especially what he's done to affect that, he's a guy who's going to be in there. Now, this is where it gets tough. The last spot for these quarterbacks. Here's Jordan Love, a guy I don't know if we've been talking about at the beginning of the year. He's got about 3,800 passing yards so far, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. We're getting into some guys here that have given the football away a little bit more, although I do think Jordan Love has been phenomenal this year. I think he's a little bit early to get the Pro Bowl selection. Now, Jared Goff is an interesting one. We're looking at the Detroit Lions, a team who has been phenomenal, a team who got robbed by the Dallas Cowboys. He's a quarterback again, got some turnover issues, some interceptions, also put the football on the ground. But when we talk about affecting winning, we talk about the way that he's gone out there and really been the catalyst for his team at times. I actually think he deserves to get in. And that means Jalen Hurts is on the outside looking in. Is he one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? Absolutely. Has this been a little bit of a down year for him? Yes. He's thrown too many interceptions. He's fumbled the ball far too often. I think he's faded in just a way this year that would put him outside of that conversation against some of the other guys that are firmly in there. Now, I don't know what y'all think about this, but this is what I would have.
That's really tough when you.
Oh, go ahead, Brooke.
Like leaving Jalen Hurts out. I mean, going into the season, it's
Feels crazy.
We were talking about, maybe he was an MVP candidate. This was going to be his year, and the fact that he could be on the outside looking in. But you make a good point. It's hard to argue against those guys, Jared, Brock, and Dak there.
I'm with you. I think Jalen Hurts hasn't looked like the Jalen Hurts that we've seen.
Fully agree.
And it might not seem fair, but it was a guy who finished second in MVP voting last year. There's a high ceiling for you once you're in that perennial MVP conversation. I think Jalen Hurts will tell you he hasn't played his best football this year, especially when it comes to giving the football away.
Fully agree with that.
Yeah, take a look at Jared Goff's numbers there. He has done a great job under center for the Lions, and you can attest that to their success here. But let's get to a guy that, man, we thought he was going to see a lot more action this season, and that is Dalvin Cook. The era in New York is never really materialized. He only got 67 carries for 214 yards, and now he has mutually agreed to part ways with the Jets so he can join a contender. Guys, do you think any contenders will actually bring him in, or is this just a spin?
Feels like spin.
Yeah, it feels like spin for a guy that you didn't play all year long. Ooh, he got fresh legs, I bet. Nah, I don't think they can bring him in.
Yeah, and I understand when you don't want to throw a guy under the bus or make him feel bad and you got to make the business decision, but ain't nobody going to bring him in. Nah.
All right, well, that has kind of sparked an interest to start a new game here on the show, and we're calling it Rally Spin Machine here. I'm going to tee up some headlines or some stories across the world of sports, and we're going to put a little spin on it, all right? Let's start with Grambling women's basketball. They beat the College of Biblical Studies. Get this score, 159-18. You hate to see it. All right, if you lose that game, how do you spin this one?
Well, they study the Bible. And so one of the things that I would say is God gives his biggest test to his strongest people. There's only one test in the way, right? You got to regroup and see how we respond here. We're just being tested by our Lord and Savior.
That's wild. Mine is, hey, we just didn't play our best game tonight. Like, who knows what happens tomorrow? If we come out and play our best game, we could have easily beaten this team.
How about pray the loss away?
Thoughts and prayers to the Lord.
Prayers go out to
the
them.
game.
All right, how about a guy that has already been in the headlines plenty of times this year? That's Connor Stallions. He was at the Rose Bowl on Monday, not on the sidelines, in the stands here. If you are Michigan, how do you spin this one?
His phone was dead. Wasn't doing anything nefarious. This guy's cell phone wasn't even on during the game. He just wanted to enjoy the team that he was a part of for a very long time. Came out to watch the game.
We do not care. That is exactly what Michigan says, because they don't care about Jim doing whatever Jim do. Connor Stallions, they don't care. What you gonna do?
That's true.
Not beat him.
How about FOMO, fear of missing out? He just had a little FOMO, wanted to be close
I'm
to
sure
his
he
friends.
He got no other friends.
Support his friends there. Connor Stallions just supporting the Wolverines. All right. Caitlin Clark, she made a logo 3 at the buzzer to beat Michigan State last night. If you let her do that, how do you spin it?
I don't know how you spin that one. This is the one person I'm not letting hit no logo 3. So.
How about the refs? They strike again? Because there's a lot of controversy that, she didn't get the ball off in time.
There's
so the
no
refs, blame it on the refs.
There is zero controversy. The score bug for Peacock was
Well, that's the whole point of the game.
off.
We got to create some here. We got to spin it.
Because we knew she was going to make it.
At least it wasn't a layup. I think that's what you got to spin it as.
Wouldn't you
Come on, the Rally
rather
PR firm, we gotta
have
do better
her
than
drive the ball than catch it, take a dribble, and shoot?
No.
And, oh, yes, I would. Bro, that's her spot. The logo's literally her spot.
She went 8 of 20 last
Bro,
night.
somebody might have been able to swipe the ball if she had to drive it. Come on now.
Layup is a much higher percentage shot.
I know, but the whole process of getting there.
All right, and finally, the NFL, they used the Lions' eligible receiver fiasco as an opportunity to release an instructional video. If you are the referees, how are you spinning this?
There was 3 guys in my face when Taylor Decker was trying to check in. I don't know what you wanted me to do. There's a spin.
It's never my fault. If you're an official, you can really pawn it off on whoever you want, knowing that you're not going to get publicly blamed for anything by the league. Now, they won't be participating in the playoffs, but publicly, yeah, it's all right.
And I do want to make clear, we're doing the spin segment right now. That was egregious. Bad.
Maybe just play delusional, like what fiasco? What player are
I
we
don't know what you're talking about.
That's
I don't know what you're
gaslighting.
talking about. That is what we call gaslighting, but hey, sometimes it works. According to today.
Oh, no.
I mean, a lot of people use it.
You do be gaslighting.
I don't use it. Don't gaslight people.
Sometimes
It's really
it
bad.
works.
She be
This
gaslighting.
is kind of a gaslighting segment. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk Ohio State. I don't know how to transition out of that one. They're just one of a few schools to shake up their coaching staff. So is now the right time or not? Stick around for the answer. That's coming up next on The Rally.
Ryan Day, the seat is on fire. The seat is on fire.
Oh, that's a given.
What I would tell you is what you need to do. I will give you one more season. This is it, one more season. But there has to be some changes made on your coaching staff, my brother, because for many years you have went out there and promoted guys that don't deserve it. You got coaches in there that they really can't coach, that's really just collecting the paycheck. You have to cut that baggage and get guys in there that got football minds that's going to dedicate themselves to getting this program back to where it's at.
Look, it's not time to fire Ryan Day, but you better damn be sure that there's urgency in the building, because that tough conversation is closer than it's ever been. And the absolute need to win, particularly against Michigan next year, has probably never been of more importance.
Right, that was Jake Butt responding to your former teammate, Tyvis Powell, in his remarks surrounding Ryan Day on the hot seat here. And I saw you kind of nodding your head to some things that Jake was saying. You obviously know this whole situation very well, being a former player of Ohio State. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't see where Tyvis was wrong on this. I do think Ryan Day is on the hot seat. I'm not going to call for anybody's job necessarily, but if things don't get better, he's going to get fired. If they don't beat Michigan this upcoming year, he's going to get fired. If they don't make a run in the college football playoff, he's going to get fired. I think that is a foregone conclusion to a lot of people who understand how this thing works. Now, Tyvis was talking about some of the inputs of this, and I think he was right. In his clip, he goes on to explain some of the coaches that aren't pulling their weight, but a lot of people are looking at the quarterback room, quarterbacks coach Corey Dennis, and they're asking, where was the development this year? Outside of generational quarterbacks, can you get a guy ready to play? And it didn't look like it was up to par with the five-star quarterback on the way in. A name that people don't really want to talk about, but Brian Hartline, with the wide receiver room that he had, they had basically a three-man rotation all season long. And I would ask the question, when you have that much talent, you should be able to roll more guys. Why wasn't that? People are looking at the offensive line coach, Justin Fry, and I think they're being a little bit critical of him. That performance we saw in the Cotton Bowl was really bad. But he's also dealing with a position that takes a long time to develop. And all of the recruits, the guys that were out there, were not guys that he recruited. I think he's going to take a little bit more time. On defense, Larry Johnson, we know he's a legend coaching D-line, but his D-line, there's been some five-stars in there that have not produced like a five-star should. Parker Fleming, the special teams coach. I mean, the first punt of the game in the Cotton Bowl, they take a delay a game or call a timeout or whatever it was because they couldn't get lined up. These are all the questions that are being asked of people within that program. And I think the final thing I'll say in terms of Ryan Day is he's got to apply pressure and find out where it hurts. And then where it really hurts, where you're feeling that pressure, you got to lean into it. Because when I was at Ohio State, we were always uncomfortable in that building. And I think there are a lot of people that need to be very uncomfortable this offseason so they can get this thing in a place where people feel better about it outside of the program.
You know, the expectations that are set at Ohio State and all from every position on the field, but specifically at the quarterback, and you kind of touched on that there. Now with Kyle McCord transferring, Devin Brown, he might not be the answer there. There's rumors flying around that he is going to hit the transfer portal. How much extra pressure is put on him to find that right guy under center?
It's a lot of pressure. I mean, they're talking about Will Howard, the Kansas State transfer, is going to be in Columbus to take an official visit. That might be their quarterback. I know Lincoln Riley was in on it, but a lot of people are asking how much of an upgrade over a Kyle McCord type quarterback would that be? I'm not sure, but if you're an offensive mind and a known quarterback whisperer, and then you go 2 years of not having elite quarterback play, people are going to call into question what's really going on in your building.
All right, so you're saying don't pull the plug when it comes to Ryan Day yet, but we did see some firings go on across the college football world. We saw LSU, they fired their entire defensive staff. North Carolina, who also struggled on the defensive side of the ball, they let go of Gene Chizik. So why is now the time of the year to really shake things up on your personnel?
I don't understand why now would be the time of the year, if I'm being completely honest. I feel like there is a window that happens right at the end of the regular season where head coaches are fired, coordinators are fired, and then people try to get in front of the hiring cycle so they can bring in their new staff. The only reason I think that you would clean house, particularly the way that LSU did, or fire a notable coordinator the way that UNC did, is because you're trying to keep a recruiting class together. Because otherwise, you feel like you gotta maybe approach some guys who took new jobs already this offseason and say, hey, no, actually come here. Like, I know you just took this job and you're trying to move your family to this new spot, but you really want to be here. That's a hard thing to really pull off at this time of the year.
Yeah, what are you thinking if you're a player here and you really like maybe like a guy like Gene Chizik when you're in the recruiting process and you're like, hey, I want to go because of that guy right there, then they let him go. What are you thinking as a player as you approach your career?
Spring portal.
Already writing them off. Man, well, those are some things that you really have to consider with just how crazy college world is these days. All right, let's look ahead to the college football playoff and ask some really big questions here. We got Michigan taking on Washington. Let's start Michigan. They win the game if what?
They win the game if they can force Michael Penix Jr. to throw them the football. I think this Michigan defense has been phenomenal, and I think Washington's offense has been phenomenal. The one edge that I think I can find for Michigan's defense that would certainly turn this ball game is if they can take the ball away. You have to limit possessions any way you can. It's going to start with running the football, and I think they'll have a pretty good shot of getting that done against this Washington defensive front that has gotten better toward the end of the year, but hasn't necessarily been great. But when it comes to the interceptions that they can create, it's something that they've done a great job of all year. That's a surefire way to get Washington off the field, to get the ball back for yourself, maybe in scoring position. They got to turn the football over.
Jesse Minder told us just the veteran presence they have in that secondary. You know, we got Will Johnson there, Mikey Sanders still. They have been huge for the success of that defense. All right, Washington wins the game if blank.
If they can run the football with some semblance of success. I don't think they're going to run it up and down the field on Michigan. Nobody has done it this year. There's been a lot of conversation about Dylan Johnson, the running back for Washington, and his x-rays came back negative. He's going to play. It said he re-aggravated an injury he had earlier in the year. Washington's offense is great when they can do two things. Is number one, they can keep some sort of balance, and it's never going to be 50-50 because that's not who they are. But the run game has to be a threat to keep defenses honest. And then number two, when they can dictate the tempo offensively, which means switching it up between throwing the ball, running the ball, going fast and slow, the only way that you can really do the slow thing is if you run the ball and let the clock run. They can go fast throwing the football, but the run game has to be an element.
This is definitely going to be the toughest defense that Washington has faced so far this season, and so we'll see. This isn't the last we're going to talk about this game. No. It's going to be a really good one. All right. Let's talk some Roy McIlroy, shall we?
We shall.
All right, he was leading the charge when it came to shaming golfers who joined the LIV Tour, but now he's had a little bit of an epiphany here. He says, I think at this point, this is funny, I think at this point I was maybe a little judgmental of the guys who went to LIV Golf at the start, and I think it was a bit of a mistake on my part because I now realize that not everyone is in my position or in Tiger Woods' position. Funny that he just kind of backtracked there, guys. Are you surprised he's changed his mind?
Well,
no. And here's why. Keeping that same energy is overrated. And if you're Rory McIlroy, how long could you really stand on that soapbox when all these other brothers saying, hey, man, I'm trying to get paid and blank whatever Rory talking about. I don't care about none of that. And I think he saw a lot of his peers saying, bro, I'm trying to get this bag, and I don't care what you have to say.
I think a lot of his peers probably had a conversation. Like, I don't think this is something where he's just spoken to the media about it. I bet you that some of the golfers that he's close to that may have gone over with LIV, he had a conversation with, and they probably looked him dead in the face and said, brother, if I had the luxury to turn down that type of money, I would certainly do it. But guess what? I don't. And I got a family to feed. And quite frankly, I'm trying to create generational wealth so I can change my family for the future. And so that's why I took this money. And he's a reasonable human and probably said, well, when you say it like that, it makes a lot of damn sense.
Yeah, I think he was put in a tough position becoming kind of like the face of the tour, and they put a lot of pressure on him. And honestly, a lot of people probably didn't think that this was actually going to last. So you see it in other leagues with the NFL, and they create other leagues, and nobody's been able to really compete to that caliber. But LIV Golf just continues to take new and new golfers, and he's like, all right, well,
I think
maybe they are onto something.
I think the merger took the wind out of his sails,
yes.
too. Like y'all really got me out here on my soapbox and then kind of threw me under the bus.
Y'all made me do this, and now I look like a goofy.
And so now I'm just going to walk it back.
And I want some money.
Yeah.
I need more money.
I want to be paid.
I want to get paid, that's right. Are you guys ready to come clean on anything you've been too judgmental of?
Yes.
Oh, Joshua. There.
Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. It's one that I have run my mouth about. And again, I'm not all for we need to show her every time that she's at a game. But the Taylor Swift thing, I think I was a little bit too judgmental at the beginning. I felt like it was all a stunt. I felt like she was trying to get her little FaceTime for free on TV. Travis Kelce certainly could benefit. She was trying to reimagine herself with a different personality. And I've come to realize that they're in it. I mean, we got families meeting. You got her cheering like she's really down for her man. Like she is cheering like a wag would cheer. I was very judgmental in the beginning, but listen, I'm here for it now.
Wow.
Their love, I'm here for, not necessarily all the cut-ins.
I think they're going to get engaged this year.
Good for
That's
you.
nice. How about you, Brooke?
Gosh, what am I too judgmental? I can't think of it.
She's not a judgy person.
I try not to judge, not to say that I haven't done it.
I'm a judgy
but
person.
Off the top of my head, I can't come up. I know. Do you have one?
I am judgy about some things, but I'm also one to not be too proud to say when I'm wrong about something. So I feel like for the most part, when we had things on our show where I'm like, nah, I'll come back and be like, I was probably wrong.
So I'm the only one.
You know what? I'll say this. I still have some issues with Matt Eberflus, but I give him a lot of credit because I've seen a lot of players quit on some coaches, and dudes didn't quit on him when they started 0-4, and now he's gonna be back.
All right.
That is very true. I was proud of you because you sent a text this weekend in the group text and you were like, I'm kind of here for it.
Hey,
You were
man,
hating.
dudes didn't quit on him, and that means they see something in him, even if
Brooke's got to
he's bad.
find somebody that she's called a punk that isn't a punk anymore.
You be doing that.
There's a
You be
lot,
calling people
but we
punks.
don't have time, unfortunately,
Oh,
to go over that.
convenient.
Guys, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Convenient.
Hey Ben,
Yeah.
we're checking out lock screens today. What's the background on your lock screen?
Oh, background. Wrigley Field, baby. Best place on earth.
Hey Ryan, sweet hat. What's your lock screen?
Oh, thanks. My lock screen is, I changed it because I heard you were going around. I changed it to me and my girlfriend.
Hey Seattle Sam, nice hat. What's your lock screen?
My lock screen is a painting from the Art Institute. I think it's called the Old Guitarist.
Wow, interesting stuff there. As we were going, the social team was going around and checking some of our co-workers' lock screen. So I'm curious what y'all's lock screen is.
Would you like to go?
Yeah, I have a lock screen of my godson, Dion. He is just cute as a button, and it's been like that for a while now. You can't see him. There he is. Ah,
That has been it for a while.
No, he's been, because he's not that size anymore. He's growing very fast, but yeah.
That's sweet. Joshua?
I have some inspo for my lock screen. I'm gonna get me